What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guardians of all ages? Joker back again, once again. Still feeling a little bit under the weather, so I do apologize once again for the quality of the audio in this video. So Thorn may or may not be coming back in Destiny 2, The Curse of Osiris. For the sake of argument, we'll go ahead and say that it is. I mean, if it wasn't, well, we wouldn't have a video. Engaging from the reception this one still has gotten, even if Thorn isn't coming back immediately, I'm guessing that Christopher Barnett and the live team are highly considering it. Because the reception has been largely, for the most part, positive for what's considered one of the most broken and infamous weapons in all of Destiny's history. So much so that it was nerfed into the ground, then nerfed again in Rise of Iron when it came back. And there was still this kind of weird pseudo PTSD, over-exaggerated backlash about Bungie bringing it back. However, this time, the only pushback that I've seen is, understandably, from the, "Oh look, more Destiny 1 reskins, yay!" camp. And while I would likely agree if we were talking about something like Telesto or the Jade Rabbit or any of the other number of exotics being brought back again, and I do think that there is a real conversation to be had there with just how much of Destiny 1 is being reskinned and brought back for Destiny 2, to the point that Destiny 2 should have just been a DLC for Destiny 1, and honestly I think most people would agree with that. I do think that there are a couple of exotics that do get a pass when it comes to this reskinned accusation. There are just a handful of exotics in Destiny that are, for lack of a better example I guess I would say, Destiny's version of the Master Sword from Zelda, the Battle Rifle from Halo, the Keyblade from Kingdom Hearts, the Hidden Blade from Assassin's Creed, the Buster Sword from Final Fantasy VII. Some things are just that iconic to the world of Destiny. Some things are just essential to the experience, as essential as supers and subclasses and engrams. Thorn and its rival The Last Word are arguably two of the most important weapons in the franchise. I'd go as far as to say that they're even more important than Galahorn, and there's a lot of reasons for this. Not only was Thorn and Last Word two of the most uncontested dominant forces in the Crucible for the better part of a year, and even still seeing prominence, after being nerfed several times, they are two of the most storied weapons in the game. Because every video is someone's first, we're gonna go ahead and talk about the lore a bit. Don't worry, we'll try not to go full lore nerd here, but we're gonna go full lore nerd here. Because I do think it is important to set up why these two guns are so important to the mythology of Destiny. Destiny 2's Rose and Bone exotic ship puts it quite eloquently. Thorn and Yor, Shin Malphur, the showdown at Dwindler's Ridge. Every gunslinger knows the legend, and if they say they don't, they're lying. Two men go up the ridge to settle their differences, day and night, right and wrong. Thorn and Yor's got the black gun Thorn, which I ain't a mind to talk about, except how it took everything from Shin. So Shin draws on Yor, Shin draws quicker. He gets the last word. The story of Thorn and the Last Word has everything. It starts out hundreds of years before the beginning of Destiny 1, before the Great Disaster, but likely sometime after the building of the walls. A titan by the name of Rizil goes to Earth's moon Luna. He's a noble man, a great hero. On the moon, he fights the Hive, and the first seeds are planted. He would use the bones of an ancient Hive warrior to decorate his prized rose, the gun that we would come to know as Thorn. Over time, the darkness would whisper to him. He would eventually cease to be Rizil, as the grimoire reads. And so, the nobleman hid himself beneath darkness no flesh should touch, and gave up his mortal self to claim a new birthright. Whether this was choice or destiny, the truth is known only to fate. In that cool evening air, as dusk was devoured by night, the nobleman ceased to exist. In his place, another stood. Same meat, same bone, but oh, so very different. The first and only of his family, the sole forebearer and the last descendant of the name Yor. In his first moments as a new being, he looked down at his rose and realized for the first time that it held no petals, only the jagged purpose of angry thorns. On the flip side, the original user of the Last Word was a hunter named Jaren Ward. He one day stumbled upon a settlement in the wild known as Palamon. As Shin Malphur, Jaren Ward's adopted son and inheritor of the last word, writes, "I'd never seen anything like him. Maybe none of us had. He said he was only passing through, and I believed him. Still do. But life can get in the way of intent, and often does. The story of the Thorn and the last word are interlinked. You can't have one without the other. Game balance be damned. It's the story of a great hero falling to temptation and darkness. It's the story of loss and love and revenge and sorrow. In many ways, Thorn and Yor is as much a victim as he is the villain. It's the story of Shin Malphur and the two men that entered his world, one of light, and the other, the darkest shadow he would ever know. Yor would kill Ward. Then he would make sure that Shin Malphur received his master's sword, the last word. Yor states in a conversation with his ghost,
"Take it.
Why?
Give the apprentice the master's sword. It's a gift.
You cannot have him.
You fear for his light.
He's...
Special.
Yes.
I am aware.
You are trying to tempt him. You are feeding his anger.
The gun is a memento, nothing more.
You claim to be a vessel, a hollow shell where a man once stood, but that's just a lie. The man is still in you.
There is no man here. I am now, and for the rest of time, only Thorn and Yor.
The eternal abyss.
So, not all the forgotten languages are dead.
Hide behind whatever titles you wish. It's all still a facade. No force of nature would play such games.
Games?
The canon. You wish to tempt the boy, to spur him on, to fuel his rage. There is intent there. The actions of a man, monstrous, mad, or otherwise. You are nothing more.
And what value does your conclusion bring? Flawed as it may be.
That a hurricane can only be weathered, not stopped, not redirected. A force of nature is uncaring and without intent. But a man...
Yes?
A man is none of those things. A man can be killed.
And there it is.
There what is?
A sliver of hope.
And why does Thorn and Yor care about hope?
When you speak of me, use my proper name. Tell them of the man that stands before you, not the ghost of the hero I once was.
But you'll always be dear to me.
If you cannot let that man go, you will forever taint his legacy. All the good I have ever done will be washed away in a fire of who I have become.
If you care, then there's still some promise within you.
If I'm being entirely honest, I care only to give hope to the frightened, huddled masses, so that when I come upon them, they will have more to lose. Their pain will be greater, their screams more pure.
You!
Yes, well, nothing dies like hope. I so do cherish it.
You're a monster.
And finally, you see the truth.
Is truly dead?
So I have said. Long live Thorn and Yor.
This is farewell, but you can only run from your sins so far. In the end, you will die alone.
Maybe so. But I gotta tell you, I tend to like my odds.
Your tainted rose will not always save you.
Old friend. It already has.
I think the speaker said it best in the Osiris Grimoire card. What drives a warlock to madness? Ghosts choose those suited to war and heroism to be reborn. By nature or circumstance, they go to battle against the darkness, and through this battle, they learn how to use the light. But warlocks, by their nature, fight a second internal war. This is the war to understand a universe of secrets, a world that expects Guardians to fight without full knowledge of what they are or what they might hope to achieve. Guardians don't really have a choice. They're reborn, and by nature or circumstance, they battle the darkness. They're an army of the chosen undead with no memory of their past. Maybe Yor chose the darkness. Maybe it chose him. Maybe he chose to become what he did because, for him, it was really the first choice that he got to make. Maybe Yor wanted to die. Maybe he was arrogant. Maybe it was a bit of everything. If you ever wondered why people get so upset about the lackluster story in Destiny 1 and 2, even though it's supposed to be a MMO hybrid looter shooter game with the biggest air quotes you've ever fucking seen in your life, and lament the loss of the Grimoire, this is why. Because it shows this universe has stories worth telling, things worth exploring, grandiose concepts and ideas. This is Destiny storytelling at its best. This is why I stick around. This is why I fight for the game to get better, even though it seems to every casual observer who watches my videos that I just hate the game and that I'm ripping on the game to make that sweet, sweet YouTube ad revenue. No, I see these stories. I've read the Grimoire. I've seen the potential. And nothing pisses me off more than wasted potential. Dwindler's Ridge, however, is not where the story of Thorn and the Last Word come to an end. In the Grimoire, cards Ghost Fragment, Blind Watch, Cathedral of Dusk, The Cauldron, and Widow's Court all follow a group of guardians known as the Shadows of Yor. They had followed the path of Dredge and Yor and recreated Thorn. In Rise of Iron, we interact with this group through Eris Morn, believing that they had tamed the sickness of Thorn, which allows us to recreate Thorn ourselves. The Shadows of Yor card reads, they tried to hide the truth, but we followed its winding path, pieced together the fragmented map of events across time and space. Quite literally, mind you. From the Traveler's Shadow to the dark corridors beneath the moon and the long, harrowing journey back again. From the sickness inflicted upon the Crucible to the breaking of light on the Red Sands. From the forgotten settlement in the west to the horrors of North Channel and Valar. From the wilds of the Breaklands to the hateful cold of Durga. Finally then, to Dwindler's Ridge, where the darkness met pure, angry fire. We've traced your steps from the beginning to the end and back again. We've studied his reign, the terror he seeded, the violence he wrought, as if free of conscience, only to discover a terrible thing. He was not simply the monster legends claim him to be, though, in finding this truth, we've come to understand the desire to build an armor of a false narrative around all he'd done, all he'd become. Yet, that understanding, our understanding, of the need to control Yor's mythology should not be seen as an agreement on the matter. Quite the opposite, actually. When viewed as he truly was, not as he is imagined, we challenge the known mythologized depiction of the man who was Dredge and Yor. In our estimation, the monster so many see was, in fact, the best of us. His sacrifice total, his vile means meant to carve a greater end. They hide this truth because they fear the consequences of those who would dare follow in his footsteps. To tempt the darkness, to allow one's light to be tainted. Few could walk that ledge and not fall completely into despair. And while theories exist to support or contradict the purity of the gift we wield, Yor's life offers a glimpse into an unexplored possibility. Arasa agrees. He also believes, as I do, that there is a manner in which we may be able to replicate Yor's domination while avoiding the same heavy toll. We will surely be judged for what it is we are about to achieve. And there will surely come a time when the lone gunman will want words, or worse. But we go upon an old path, one we seek to make our own. And if we should fail, may the light avenge all those we make to suffer. And finally, in Ghost Fragment The Last Word 5, Shin Malphur and his ghost have a conversation. The ghost asks Shin what he'll do about the Shadows of Yor. At first, Shin dismisses this, saying that he hopes they're more careful than their inspiration, and that the Vanguard has an eye on the situation. To which the ghost replies, the Vanguard has their eyes on many things, then asks Shin what he plans on doing. To which Shin simply replies, what needs to be done. In Destiny 2, Bungie has implemented what's called faction rallies. For the PC ladies and gents, or anyone just now joining us, the faction rallies is a week-long event available in Destiny 2 which features a competition between the factions and offers faction-themed rewards. Once the faction rally event is active, players have until the weekly reset to earn faction reputation tokens, which can be turned in at the faction vendors for rewards. During Victory Week, the following week after the faction rally, the faction whose pledges acquire the most faction engrams will be declared the winner of the event. For the duration of Victory Week that follows the end of the faction rally event, the vendor of the winning faction will have a winner's offering available for purchase. The winner's offering will be available for purchase at the winning faction's vendor for the duration of Victory Week until the weekly reset. Characters who pledge to a winning faction can purchase one winner's offering for 1,000 glimmer. Any additional purchases of the winner's offering will cost 50,000 glimmer. Characters who did not pledge to the winning faction can purchase the winner's offering for 50,000 glimmer. Any characters who did not pledge to any faction during the faction rally can purchase the winner's offering also for 50,000 glimmer. Where the lore for the Shadows of Yor and Shin Malphur ends in Destiny 1, leaves us with an amazing setup for a faction war type event themed around the Thorn and the Last Word. But clearly, the Thorn and the Last Word deserve more fanfare than just what's on offer at the faction rallies. Both the Shadows of Yor and Shin Malphur would need armor and weapons and shaders and emblems created for their respective factions. Each piece of gear would have lore tabs, and those lore tabs would introduce people to the lore of Thorn and the Last Word. The start of the event would have a heralding intro cinematic. Doesn't have to be fancy. The point of the cinematic would be twofold: to set up the events and explain a little bit of the lore behind the weapons and the mentality of the factions. The Shadows of Yor think this, and Shin Malphur has seen this and experienced this and done that. The prize for each faction would of course be their exotic, and there would be two ways to get these exotics. In the background, this event would be treated like a faction rally. Go out, do things for your respective factions, get tokens, turn them in, and the winning faction sells their gun for 50k glimmer to the winners, and 70k glimmer to the losers, or a bunch of legendary shards, or whatever. The point is, it should be expensive. The reason for that is because it will also have a quest. If you manage to reach, say, rank 25, you will be given an exotic quest. This quest should be hard to finish by design, because not only does it guarantee Thorn or the Last Word, but both weapons will have ornaments that unlock by completing the quest line. So people know that you got your weapons from doing the quest and not just buying it. Of course, even if you bought your Thorn or Last Word, provided that you ever finish the exotic quest, these ornaments will unlock. The quest for Thorn and Last Word would start off like most exotic quests in Destiny 2, with a story mission. For example, Thorn would have you go to Titan. Once on Titan, you go to the hive-riddled underbelly. You're looking for a witch and a powerful ancient knight. You kill the witch, you kill the knight, and you collect their bones. These of course wouldn't be any random run-of-the-mill witch or knight. They would be unique to this encounter, and they would be powerful strike boss level enemies. Once you collect the bones, the ghost makes a comment about being worried about them seething with darkness, and hoping you know what you're doing. You return with your bones to the quest giver, then jump through a few more hoops like getting 200 void kills in the Crucible, and after all of that, you do a super hard version of the Song of Savathûn, provided the Curse of Osiris doesn't introduce a more fitting hive-themed strike. That said, the destruction of the void charges in the Song of Savathûn strike could be seen as using the void light to power Thorn. Thematically, that's not a bad idea. One part of the quest has you dealing void damage to guardians, and the other has you beating Thorn with void light, stripped from dead guardians. and then also having it bathe in the hive energy seething from Savathun's presence. Which, again, given that Thorn is a weapon that deals poison damage, and Savathun is known to be insidious and a trickster, this all kind of fits thematically. And, it allows Bungie to do kind of a cool event without creating a lot of new content, because we know how they are when it comes to that. And you'd have a similar quest for Last Word, likely on Earth in the EDZ. Now, I would absolutely positively love new content, new story missions, new quests created just for these weapons, but let's be realistic here. This is kind of the bare minimum, and I think it's the fanfare that the two weapons on the most minimal level deserve. They deserve to come back. They deserve to be powerful. They deserve a lot of hype and a lot of fanfare because they are such iconic weapons. What form that'll take in Destiny 2? Who knows? These are just my rambling thoughts. But, like always, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, those are just my rambling thoughts. How would you bring back Thorn in the Last Word? Do you think Bungie is going to give them the fanfare they deserve, or are they just going to be dropped into engrams? And of course, how would you change Thorn in the Last Word to fit in Destiny 2's neutered sandbox? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and like always, my fellow guardians, stay frosty.
Every rose has its thorn, just like every night has its dawn, just like every cowboy sings a sad, sad song. Every rose has its thorn.